Right, in this video, you're going to be using the Pythagorean theorem to find an unknown side length. We're going to particularly focus on finding a leg length. So remember, in a right triangle, we can use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. C being the side length across from that 90-degree angle. So here, notice we're missing one of our legs then, which means we are missing A or B. And it really doesn't matter if we switch these around. So if I fill in what I know in the Pythagorean theorem, let's make this my A. I don't know what A is. And that would make 8 my B, so 8 squared. And then since 10 is across from that 90-degree angle, that makes 10 my hypotenuse. So that should be equal to 10 squared. So right now we only have one unknown, which means we can solve for it. So right now we have to solve the equation. So the first thing we should do is actually square these numbers. Okay, you can use your calculator, or if you know them in your head, you can just do that as well. So a squared plus 64 is equal to 100. So now we are going to solve for a, which means I need to get a alone. So I need to get rid of the 64, so I'm going to subtract that from both sides. Okay, so 64 cancels out, leaves you with a squared is equal to 36. Again, you can use your calculator to do that calculation if you need. Now, we haven't found a yet. Right now we know a squared is equal to 36. So to get rid of this squared, we want to use the inverse. The inverse of squaring a number is taking the square root, so that those cancel out to leave you with a. So that means we have to take the square root of the other side, which is then going to be 6. Okay, so this side length is then 6 inches. Always remember your units. Okay, and a good, just check again to make sure we didn't make any math errors and we set the problem up right, is our hypotenuse should still always be that longest side. So 10 is longer than my leg, so I probably did it right. Okay, let's do one more example together before you try any on your own. So again, notice that 15 is my hypotenuse because it's opposite that 90-degree angle. So 15 is my C. Now, last time I made this side length my A. Why don't we make this my B this time? And that would make 8 my A. Just switching it up. It doesn't matter either way. These are both legs, so these can be switched around. So again, first thing you're going to do is square those numbers. 8 squared is 64. 15 squared is 225. To get B alone, we need to subtract that 64. So that cancels, and B squared is going to be equal to, turn on my calculator, 225 subtract 64 is 161. Square root of 161. B is going to be, well, let's round to the hundredths place. So that would be the second decimal here. So it would be 12.69, and we are talking about inches. So 12.69 inches is this other side length. Okay. Another way to type this in your calculator, if you are strictly using your calculator, not doing any mental math here like I did a little bit of, you could simply take that 15 squared, subtract 8 squared, and jump. Oops, I didn't do 8 squared. 15 squared, subtract 8 squared. There we go. And jump right to that 161. Okay, and then take the square root of 161 like we did to get the same answer. So you'd be skipping writing down this step, which is fine. It all depends on if you want to do any mental math in the problem or not. So why don't you pause the video to try this next problem and round to the hundredths place if needed. Okay, so I'm subtracting 10 squared from each side. So 16 squared subtract 10 squared gives me 156. And then I'm taking the square root so that A is equal to 12.49. And we are talking about centimeters. Pause the video again and try this one, still rounding to the hundredths place. Right, again, remember, I set my problem up to solve for B. If you have it set up to solve for A, that's the same thing. The important part is that you have C being 13, because that's across that 90-degree angle. Your hypotenuse has to be that longest side. Okay, so then I'm going to do my 13 squared, subtract 5 squared, because I know I need to get rid of this 5 squared to get B squared alone. So that gives me 144. Take the square root. I know that that is going to be 12 centimeters. I'm going to show you one other way to do this on your calculator. Once you do these problems more and more, this process, you can simplify it a little bit more in your calculator. So at the end, I know I have to take the square root. So if I start with that, I know I have to take the square root of this subtraction. So I can actually put that subtraction all under my square root. Because then the calculator is going to do this subtraction first, and it knows that that's 144. You just don't see this in-between step again. So it's another way to kind of just cut down on one of your steps. Take the square root there, and you get 12 right away. Okay, so it's similar to the shortcut when we were finding the hypotenuse where these were being added under the square root. Because they're now on opposite sides, we have subtraction there. So if you want to continue to show me all the steps, or if you want to use a shortcut in your calculator, that is up to you. So why don't you pause and try these two now, still rounding to the hundredths place if necessary. So this is one of the ways to set this problem up. Again, another shortcut on the calculator. If I want to copy exactly what I just had from that last problem in, if I hit the second button and I want that to re-enter, see that entry? It's going to recopy what I just had. So this can just make it a little faster if I want to just change these numbers, because I know I want to do 37 squared subtract that 12 squared. And then I want to take the square root, which is going to tell me that B is going to be 35 inches. Okay. Again, just showing you different tricks to do with your calculator. It's up to you how you actually want to use it. Okay, so this other problem, let's go A squared plus 11 squared is equal to 18 squared. I know I'm going to have to do this subtraction. Which gives me 203. Then I got to take the square root of 203, which rounded to the hundredths place is going to be 0.25. And we have centimeters there. Okay, so now we're going to look at finding a missing side length again, but taking away that picture. So it's same thing, just plugging it into the formula. 15 squared plus b squared is equal to 40 squared. So I'm going to use the shortcut and take the square root of 40 squared, subtract 15 squared to find that b is 37 I set to the 10th this time, so 0.1 centimeters. Okay. Last problems of the video, I would like you to pause and try these last two. So 12 squared plus b squared equals 13 squared. You can see I did this first one on my calculator already to find that b is going to be 5 meters. Again, make sure you are remembering those units. A squared plus 6 squared is equal to 12 squared. So I solved this one already. A is equal to 10.4 inches because I said round to the 10th there.